This is one of the first pieces I've ever refinished. This was back in 2016 when farmhouse was really, really popular. Look at all those swirl marks. If you look really close, there's tan and bleed through. Another what not to do. Look at my legs. I added feet to it. Not the right way though. The drawers, they wouldn't even close. The plan is to update, to fix, and to sell this piece. It's the perfect piece to show you what not to do when you're flipping furniture, to show you the mistakes I made and how we can fix them. Because the top is so nasty, I plan on stripping it. There's tons of paint. There's polyurethane on it. I want to strip it so I don't have to sand too much because I made all these swirls, so the sanding is going to be a lot. So my first step is to use some citrus strip and remove as much as I can. I like using citrus strip because it just doesn't, it's not as harsh as the other one. It doesn't stink. It doesn't give me a headache. I'm pretty prone to migraines, so this one I find is a lot gentler. If you're using it indoors, I'd make sure you're really well ventilated because I've used it indoors and it's still triggered a migraine. But it's pretty easy to use. It's just messy. I like to wrap it in plastic wrap. It's only about 60 degrees, so I don't want this to dry up on me really quick. You should do this in warmer weather, but you know, I gotta make do with what I got here. While we're waiting on the top to work, I'm gonna give it about 40 minutes. I wanna start taking the drawers out one by one. I'll mark the bottoms, you know, like one middle, two middle, you know, right, left. And then I'm gonna take all the hardware out and then we're gonna see why they won't glide. And we're gonna fix that. Or there's no point in doing this. If the drawers don't work, I'm not gonna sell it. Nobody's gonna want it. So we're gonna make the drawers fit. Okay, now to address this. Okay, it does not close at all. Drives me crazy. And there's a few of them on there that do that. So it has a metal track and a wood glide. I see the problem. Oh my goodness. I can see it right there. So every time the drawer goes to close, it gets stuck right here. This part is a lot wider than this part. So this is a really easy fix. You could sit here all day and sand it, or you could just take your razor blade and use it like a chisel, or use a chisel if you got a chisel. But this works just fine for me. I don't have a chisel. Maybe I do. I don't know. But we're just gonna carve some of it out. I know some of you are like, oh my gosh, you're ruining it. But I'm not. I'm not. I swear. I'm making it better. I see there's a lot of wear and tear here. That should do the trick on this side. Oh, I hope my head wasn't in the way. A little bit more. And then I'll do it the same on the other side, and then I will go in with my sander and just sand it smooth. So yeah, this should be it. So now I'm just taking my sander here. It has this little pad, and I'm gonna put it in between. If you don't have a sanding pad, you could also just take a piece of sanding paper, fold it, and go ahead and sand. But this 100 grit is too low, so I would use something soft, higher in grit. Back on the track. better, not great. So I'm gonna keep at it with my razor blade until I've shaved enough. Yeah, I guess I stopped right here. I need to get just that bit off. So. Sweet, did it. And this one down here is not too bad. So all I'm gonna do is lightly sand. Yeah, it's just a little beat up, I think. But again, it's that little back notch. Ooh, actually it's not. Look at the other side. You can see this is all chewed up back here. That took me seconds. Just a couple of seconds. And it's completely fixed. Let's give it a try. Yeah! Easy peasy, totally fixed. Hopefully I took that top coat off. I think it's safe to say that I did. First things first, I want to address why I got all these swirl marks in my wood. And that's because when I was using my sander, I used an 80 grit and then I went right up to 220 because I didn't know any better. What I need to do is I'm going to start at 100 because I already stripped the top. You can see there's a lot of light spots. I shouldn't have to take much off. Usually I would start with 80, then 100, but now we're starting with 100. Then we'll go to 120, then we'll go to 150. Then I will probably stain, and then I'll use a higher grit afterwards just to sort of make sure it's nice and smooth. But I might need a 180. We'll see. The reason I go up gradually is because I want to knock off all the swirls. You know, if you just go and if you press too hard, you can get swirls. There's a few different reasons, but the biggest one that I've always found was if you don't knock off the swirls by gradually increasing your grit, you'll be left with swirls. That's what works best for me. Okay, so the best way I find to see if you have any swirl marks is to use mineral spirits. Now, I've been just pouring the mineral spirits down and then going through and looking to see if I can see any, and I really don't. But that doesn't mean that if I put my dark stain on top, which I do plan on doing, I know I'm just trying to get rid of the swirl marks, but I really liked that dark stain. So I'm not going to go crazy in trying to get all these dark marks out. I'm just trying to get all the swirls out. So I am going to still move up to my 120 and then my 150, and then I'm going to add a gel stain. When I do my 120, I only need to go over once really quick with my 120, then go over once really quick with my 150. Not really quick. I mean, I'm going to take my time, but I don't have to, try to get any stain off because that 120 or 100 already took all the stain off. Now I'm sanding right over this white paint. This is Rust-Oleum's chalked paint. So it is a chalk paint. I don't have to remove it. If it was a latex paint, which is like wall paint, when I sand it, it would start getting really, really gummy. But it's not because it's chalk paint. So I'm just sanding it nice and smooth so that my next coat of paint goes on really smooth. If your surface is smooth to begin with, you'll have a really nice smooth finish. I do believe I used a roller to apply the Rust-Oleum's paint, but I still got sort of a little orange peel finish on it, and I don't like that orange peel look. It's time to address the feet part. I got these from Etsy. They were really nice. They stop here. This part is just a scrap of wood that I cut and then drilled to the sides. The issue is I used quick wood, which is an epoxy, to join them right here. So I'm just going to use my razor blade once again and cut where I joined so that I can loosen it up. And I do have to go on all four ends of the foot and just sort of slice it, and then it comes right off. Yes. Okay, so good. I used 2 screws on each of my little triangles here, so I'm just going to unscrew that with my drill. So now I'm sanding the bottom smooth just to make sure that there's no chunks or anything, yucky that would make my new finish look unsightly. Not only did I sand the drawers, but I also sanded the sides of this and the entire front of the base because I just want that new finish to look smooth. Then I realized that I want to make one of those bases. This is pretty outdated, which is why I added the legs in the first place. So I'm going to use my generic citrus strip because I misplaced the other citrus strip. So I'm using this one now, and I'm going to leave it for 40 minutes and then come back and scrape it off. Unfortunately, it is way too cold and not all of it would come off. So that's just another big pain that I'm going to have to use my mineral spirits and really scrub. I have one of those fine steel wools, so I'm just scrubbing away, and then I'll end up sanding it afterwards. And while I was sanding, I thought, you know what, let's just cut some of this off so that I don't have to sand the entire thing with all of the dried citrus strip on there. That's another big tip. Don't use the paint stripper if it's too cold because it just won't work. I measured out where I want to cut on the skirt. I don't want to add a whole new base, although they are so beautiful. In this case, if we just cut some of those curved lines off, it'll look a little bit more modern. So this is an easy fix, and I'm using my jigsaw because it's just pretty easy, and then I'll sand the bottom nice and smooth. Getting ready for paint, we have to vacuum up all of the sawdust and all of the paint and all of the mess. It's really important when you're working to make sure you're cleaning as you're going, because any of the dust or debris will get in your paint and then you'll have chunks in your paint. It's just kind of a nightmare. So make sure you just clean up as you go. I'm getting ready for the paint sprayer. I've been practicing with this HomeRite paint sprayer and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it yet, but I am prepping and I have these blue tape things that you can put over the drawers. I've used them on another project so far, and I kind of think they're a little bit wasteful for me for the drawers. They take a lot of time, and it's just easier if I use some tape and I tape around them, just saving time. I guess that's really my concern here. It was easier for me to just tape things off with the green tape rather than using that blue scotch tape skirt thing. But I do use that blue scotch on the top of the dresser to protect it. And that's what I think I'll use it for in the future instead of the drawers. Now, to combat any of those tannins coming through, I'm just going to give it a once over spray with some shellac. This is an easy way for me. I know that I'm going to paint with black, so tannins aren't really going to peek through, but just in case, I'm going to use this anyway. And the paint that I'm using does have tannin blocker in it, but I'm just trying to be extra and trying to do it all right. The paint I'm using is Dixie Belle's Silk in the color Anchor, which is super, super black. And it's a mineral paint, so it's going to be self-leveling. And I've noticed now a difference when I use the paint sprayer with mineral paint and chalk paint. When I use the sprayer with the chalk paint, I sort of get this gritty texture because chalk paint has that gritty texture. And when I'm using the mineral paint, it comes out so smooth. It is just like butter. It's super nice. It looks a little like when you're spraying it, it looks like it's not spraying right, but it self-levels and it has the smoothest finish. It's really beautiful. The reason I say I'm not sure if I like the sprayer yet is because there is a huge learning curve that I wasn't expecting when using a sprayer. When I saw people using it online or on Instagram or on other YouTube videos, I just assumed that it was really easy. But finding the right spray, the right amount that comes out is a little tricky. You don't want it your settings to be too high or the paint comes flying out and splatters. And you don't want it to be too low either because then it hardly comes out. And I also had this issue where my paint kept drying while I was spraying and then it wouldn't come out at all. So I definitely think that paint spraying is a little bit harder than I had anticipated. I'm sure it's like everything, and it's gonna take me just a little bit to get used to it, but it is taking me a little bit longer than I had first expected. I'm measuring holes for hardware because this piece is no longer gonna have that farmhouse look. So I'm updating the hardware to follow the long lines of the base and the drawers. And I got my helper today who is showcasing the spray paint for me. So we are using this Rust-Oleum's paint spray in the color Flat Chestnut. And between coats of spraying the paint, we're just using a really fine grit of sandpaper to knock off any little specks that might have fallen into the paint or anything like that. And then Joe had a really good idea. Every time we've been painting in between coats or when we start again, we just have a little practice board on the side. And that seems to really help. Now, he's been paint spraying with me and he likes one setting and I like another setting. So it was a little bit tricky when I went back after he did the second coat for me to then come back and spray these drawers. And I found it easier if I just put the drawers back in to spray. But as you can see here, my settings were kind of messed up. So that's what I'm saying when I say there's a learning curve. There definitely is. You have to find the right settings for you. You can't really go based on what somebody else says. I like one setting, he likes another setting. He likes his to come out really thin and he likes to go slow, and I like mine to come out a little bit faster because I like to move a little bit faster. When I finished that coat, I came back with a setting that I was very comfortable with. My setting looks more like this, and as you can see, I'm going up and down on the sides. I need some more time with this paint sprayer before I feel right about doing any sort of tutorial with it. So I really am not going to get into any details, but when I am using my sealer, I'm just going to pour some of that sealer right into my black mineral paint. And you could strain it, but I know there's no chunks. I've only used this one more time and then I hammered it closed. So I know that there's not really going to be any chunks in there to get stuck in my sprayer. I'll say once I really get used to it, as you can see, the finish came out so nice. It is a game changer. Using the sprayer makes a lot of difference. I think that once I get the hang of it, I'm going to use it a lot more often, at least when I'm doing solid colors. Now to finish the piece up, I want to stain the bottom. And I thought about going with a light color, but I think in my area, a darker color will sell with this black pretty easy. I'm using Dixie Belle's No Pain Gel Stain in Walnut. I love their No Pain Gel Stain. I use their applicator pads to apply it, and I just apply it in rows. I take my time and I just make sure that everything is nice and smooth. With this gel stain, I like to work sort of fast because since it's cold and kind of windy, it's going to dry pretty fast on me. So working a little bit faster is a good idea here. As far as dry times, you want to wait a couple days. Usually they say 3 days before you can top coat it. It depends on the weather. Sometimes I've been able to top coat it in 1 day, but I think that you should wait about 3 days at least. It's better to be safe than sorry. Doing all this work, you don't want to, go back in a couple days and then it's ruined because you didn't wait. And I add 2 coats of the No Pain Gel Stain. I wait about 3 hours in between the first and second coat. While I'm waiting, I just go back with my mineral paint and a little artist brush and I touch up any little spots that I didn't catch in the first place. Now for my hardware, when I'm spray painting really shiny hardware, sometimes I notice that I'll get a little bit of peeling. So to combat this, I just want to use a thick sealer. If I had a spray lacquer, I would use that, but I don't have that on hand right now. So I'm using this Dixie Belle Silk Extra Coat, which is the same thing as their Gator Hide. Then I waited my 3 days and I decided I wanted to have a satin finish on the top. You could use a polyurethane, an oil-based one, because the stain is oil-based. But I'm going to go ahead and just use my water base because that's what I have. And I find that sometimes when you use an oil-based polyurethane, after time, the yellowing from the oil comes up, and it doesn't come up just a little, it comes up a lot, and it kind of changes, the look of your piece, and then it starts to look dated. So I've had really good luck using the water-based polyurethane on top. And I love to have the satin finish because it's just really, really easy to clean. Here's a quick reminder of what it looked like before, and here's what it looks like today. This is a totally different look from what we started with. We went from white to black, and the top looks pretty good. I have to say, I'm really happy about the way the top turned out. There are no swirly whirlies. It just looks like clean, fine lines. The mineral paint, there are no bubbles or no orange peel or brush strokes. So that sprayer is pretty awesome. I just need to get used to it. Here and there, I'm going to do some of these beautiful neutral pieces because I think it's important for me to have a variety of styles to sell to people in my neighborhood. Not just all the colorful pieces, but something for everyone. If you like this style, check out this video right here, and I will see you next time with another makeover.